Folks, welcome to Metal Wani, and today with me I have one of the biggest names in thrash metal with me. Please welcome Rob Cavestany onto Metal Wani. How are you doing today, Rob?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much. That was quite an introduction. So I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
And with one video on YouTube right now from the upcoming new album and of course the other songs, how is the anticipation from the fans from the new album?
It's amazing, as are we ourselves, the band, and we're approaching 2 weeks until the album is released, and the anticipation is building and mounting, and it seems like a very nice feeling.
The Evil Divide is a robust, near-perfect headbanger of thrash. A large part of this, I feel, has to do with the rest of the band being able to keep up with you. Tell us about that. How did all this happen? The writing, the production, and of course everything that you've done on this album.
Well, the writing process is somewhat consistent between our last three albums. It just comes about differently as far as when exactly the stuff gets written and where, whether it be on tour on the bus or in a dressing room or at my home studio or at the band's rehearsal studio, and just different places where you could be inspired in writing. But generally, I mean, I started writing The Evil Divide shortly after we released The Dream Calls for Blood. I mean, even before, I think even before the album was actually released, I already started to write some music already, because I had an idea of trying to just get ahead of the game and get some new songs going. And so I was writing a little bit there, but then I stopped because the Dream Calls for Blood came out, and then we started going on tour right away for that. So I had to focus on those songs and the live set we were doing. And so then we were touring for that record, and I was just writing little bits here and there in between the legs of the tour and a little bit on the bus, but kind of went through a part where it took a break from the writing. And then finally at the end of the cycle of touring, just at the last tour we did last year in Europe, we came home with about 6 weeks to go before we were going to enter the recording studio. And then in that last 6 weeks, it just got really intense. And then it was like 50% of the record was written all at once in the final 6 weeks. So that's kind of how it's spaced out in the year or 2 years between the, from the last album to this one. And I mean, in the process of how we write, is generally I basically write the song at my home studio is usually where I can really dive in and get the full effect of getting a full on blueprint of an entire song going. And then when I have that, I'll record a basic demo of it, just guitars, and then I'll get together with Will Carroll, our drummer, and then we'll go over the arrangements and start coming up with beats and putting together the song with just guitar and drums. I like to just focus with just the drums at first, and then when we kind of have it pretty close there, then we'll record a demo of us doing that. That's what now the rest of the band will hear this and start working on their parts and throwing in their ideas, and we go at it some more and record some more with all the instruments. And then now Mark has something to work with, and we'll give that to him so we can start writing lyrics and melodies. Then Mark comes in, we do some ideas with the vocals and things and the lyrics, and play around with that. And this is all happening in our own pre-production here, at our own studio. And then we get it nice and tight and close, go back and forth with the songs until we get into the recording studio. And then even in there, do we still kind of leave it pretty open to a lot of changes and spontaneous ideas. And inside the recording studio, the songs really take shape again, and a lot of it gets changed from the last time that we were actually rehearsing it by the time it actually ends up to the final recording. And sometimes I write the lyrics, and if I do on a certain song, then I just write the lyrics and melody, and I just kind of make a demo of myself doing it and play it for Mark, and then he gets the idea, then puts his own spin on it, and that's how we end up with it pretty much.
So, your thrash metal really has this demand for intensity, energy, and you know what not, all the exciting stuff. I just want to sum it up as how's it after all these years, way back from the 80s until now, you guys have been so consistent in really delivering this headbanger stuff. How do you keep up with your age, or rather, how does your age keep up with you? This is really interesting with me.
It is interesting. It's well, I guess it's a little bit of luck, combined with a lot of effort and self-discipline, I suppose. You kind of have to just keep on top of yourself and stay focused, work very hard. I mean, on all sides of it. I mean, you just have to keep your inspiration and stay focused as far as creating music and performing it, as well as hand in hand with that, I guess, is your health. So you understand that this is a very demanding kind of music as far as when we play live or anything. When you play this kind of music, you can't just relax and play music. It's obviously a high energy, intense, aggressive style, and in order to do it properly, you need to be in that frame of mind. And so, yeah, you have to literally dig deep and focus a lot to bring it to the surface and keep it up there. So between diet, exercise, I was going to say trying to get a lot of rest, but that part doesn't really happen very much. So that also works against you, because I do not get enough rest or sleep. So to make up for that, you really have to take care of yourself as best as you can, and just keep it together. And as far as our band, chemistry-wise and everything, we talk a lot about these things together. So I think that's another one of the important factors, is that through time you can just kind of get used to each other and used to things, and you take a lot of things for granted. And we've already been through those phases long ago, because this band's been around a long time. So we've withstood many storms and come through a lot of obstacles and still come through. So you learn by your experience, and you talk it over a lot and discuss with each other, and keep on top of the strategy, and keep grounded, and be aware of all these things, and try to appreciate a lot of the things. Be happy you have a killer band and good friendship together and great chemistry and awesome fans, loyal fans, and you just put everything in perspective and realize what it is if it's gone and you won't have it anymore, and you just want to keep playing music and performing because it's your dream and your love and passion. So it's really keeping all these things in the front of your consciousness and being aware of this all the time and paying attention. And I think the key word is staying in focus.
Wow, that is something right here.
Well, it's not easy, my man. It's definitely fun when it's happening, killer, and it's got its really, really intense high moments. And for every high moment, there's a low moment and a challenge and something that the other side of the things that the people don't really see. The fans and stuff, that's not really their concern. They're about the music and the art and the performance. But in order to make it a reality, on the other side of things, there's just a lot happening to keep the thing functioning and keeping it and keeping all the energy and enthusiasm and inspiration all at level 10. So it's challenging, of course, but that's what we do and that's what we live for. So we make it happen.
Inspiring stuff for the aspiring all of us. Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So even after 3 decades, you and Mark are literally the backbone of the albums that you guys have made together. So I'm pretty sure that you guys still surprise and amuse each other in the studio, or are things started to become a little, you could expect something out of fellow band members in a specific genre of music that you're working on, such as thrash?
Well, Mark and I have really learned to. It's kind of goes hand in hand with what I just explained about keeping it going and everything like that. It's the same thing between me and Mark. Yeah, I mean, we've been through so much together for so many years and so many different things that we've already gone through various chapters of where we've experienced every kind. We've been sick of each other, I guess, and we've missed each other when we were apart, and we spend so much time together, but then on the other case, we know how to give each other space, and we've just figured out how to manage it. And the bottom line to it all too is that we deeply respect each other, and we love each other as human beings and as friends and brothers. So when you put all this together, and luckily I think that each of us are level-headed enough that we see all these angles and just make it work the way a relationship is to work. It's literally like a marriage, of course, without the romance and sex part, but every other way, it really is. You are tied together like you're joined at the hip, and you have to learn how to give each other space and respect each other and be able to work together really intensely, but make each other laugh a lot, and just know when to back off or when to go heavy. And that's the way you can keep something going for a long time and still enjoy as much of it as possible, which is most of it. So yeah, even in the studio, we're there just really laughing a lot and having a lot of fun and keeping it light. At the same time, we're getting heavy and making it really deep. So it's just kind of like it's through experience, and we've already been in this band and had broken up and reformed, and so we've come through all the heavy things together, and we're still here. So we must have been figuring something out.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure you have. So this album will mark the first time since the 1990s Act 3 that Angel did not make any changes in the lineup in 3 consecutive studio albums. And if I'm not wrong, this is your third collaboration with longtime producer Jason CSU. Talk about this relationship with your with the current lineup, which has been kind of consistent, and your relationship with Jason as a producer.
So yeah, we've been, like you said, this is the third straight record, first time since we did Ultraviolence, Frolic Through the Park, and then Act 3. And so with the consistency, we've grown so much stronger together. And also with Jason, he's practically like a sixth member when it comes to making our records, and the last 3 records, of course. And so the machine is well oiled now, and the chemistry is really working very nicely, and it feels very fortunate to be in this position. I think after all the hours we're spending together, especially on tour, living together on the bus and just everywhere we go, and we tour a lot. So we've done like 10 years of touring inside of 5 years of touring. And it caused us to we're going to kill each other or love each other by this point. So at this point, thankfully, it went to the side of love, not hate. And so we've just become tighter as friends. And when your personal relationship is very smooth and close, then when you're making, it's that much more spiritual and exciting and just fulfilling, soulfully fulfilling, and not to mention a lot of fun. And the mutual respect grows for each other and each other's musicianship, and we just know how to, again, just the same as just me and Mark, but now it's in a 5-way situation, or 6 with Jason. You figure out, when you start to know each other better, you can figure out where to give each other space, and that's kind of really important because we're really crammed together a lot and forced into to dealing with each other. So you give each other the right space and respect, and then you come together and combine all the energy and make it happen. It's just a really a fortunate situation, and I'm just really glad to be in it. And I think the band is totally on fire, and as well as with Jason in the studio. So this is very exciting for the current reality as well as the future with our band and with more records to come.
So I guess you got like the best foundation for a band that you have right now in years.
Absolutely. It's not felt like this since those times in the 80s when we were at this position, maybe going into Act 3. This is like, to me, it's a parallel of that reality happening now this many years later, but we're kind of going through it now. But this time around, we're just so much more experienced. So I'm hoping that any of the naive mistakes that we had back then, we hopefully won't make those.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, talking about personal experiences and everything personal, would you say that you've been able to reflect on some sort of personal influence on your side of the music in the new upcoming record? That could be personal musical influence or personal influence with the relationships that you've been having uh, through time. Would you say that would you say that these things have had some sort of an influence on the new record, on the way you've written your music?
Absolutely. I mean, it's in fact every record that we make and every single thing that I'm creating musically and what Mark would be creating lyrically is absolutely fueled by personal situations, experiences, and emotions. That's the only place that it's coming from. There's not enough. I mean, not there's not enough, but there's the energy and emotion it takes to sit there and spend the time to create and write music and go at it that intensely, the way we do, at least this day and age, has to come from deep within. That's just what it's all about. At this point, creating and expressing music is a direct emotional release of things that you are experiencing, straight up, and that's all there is to it. Back in the day, there was a lot more. The things that you were influenced by when you were younger, and is a lot more musical or about like the music scene and your friends and just things you're in your kind of smaller world. But the more that things that you experience in life and the more responsibilities that come upon you and the different situations that you have to face as you get older in this world, it becomes more intense and manifests itself inside your soul. And like a lot of these things are frustrating and intense for you, and music is our outlet to release and put these things into to get it out of your system and to just, it's like your version of punching a hole in the wall or whatever, but instead of doing something negative or destructive, you try to do it positively and constructively, which is creating and writing and playing music. So that's like our huge outlet, for releasing these feelings. And so things that are on your mind and very intense to you are all the things that are inspiring the writing. So whether it be things like very personal happening to your individual life, or like I said with this record, now it's branching just out of your own personal situation into the situations of everybody around you and things in the world. So that's where all the fuel and the fire is happening for this record.
So, would you say for this specific record you've had any personal influences, the way you arranged your own musical output?
Well, most definitely. I mean, but those are practically subliminal at this point because you're just listening to music constantly. like constantly since you're a kid. You're just amassing your musical collection and variety widening. At least for me, I try to be very open-minded and listen to all different types of music, and it's not just I just look for anything that I enjoy in music. And so this is way beyond the style of music that we just normally play, which is thrash and metal, which of course I love thrash and I love metal. We couldn't write and play it if we didn't, and we grew up on that stuff. But that's just one flavor or one single color in a landscape or a painting, let's say, that has many colors. So all these different musical influences are just mixed up inside me and the rest of the band that whatever everybody listens to. And when we start making music, excuse me, we start creating and writing and playing music, it's not that we're really not thinking in terms of a musical influence at that point. You're just literally playing, and a variety of influences are mixing together and coming out in your particular style. And it may be in one given moment when you're playing this part or writing this part, you might be feeling like, that this part's reminding you of this band or that music or that song or whatever it is. I might be thinking that this part's reminding me of this certain band, and meanwhile we're playing the same part, and Will is thinking it reminds him of something else, and Ted thinks it reminds him of something else completely different. But collectively, we're all playing the same song, and it's just a Death Angel song. So definitely there's musical influences in there, but not so obvious like it used to be, again, when you're a lot younger and you're really kind of emulating your direct influences. So, back in the day, you're like, oh, suddenly you hear Metallica for the first time, and you absolutely are trying to incorporate this thrash thing that you just heard from the album Kill 'Em All when it just came out, and you're like excited because that's the first time you really heard that sound at all. You just try to shove it into your music. We heard Motorhead for the first time. You try to put that vibe in there. When we heard GBH and Discharge for the first time, you're putting that in there. Rush, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Sabbath, Zeppelin, like all the little things you're gathering, it's like you're immediately trying to add that vibe into your music. But that was happening like decades ago. So over time and playing music and just amassing musical influence, it just starts to blend all together. And then when you express, you just draw from all these things all at one time and just let it fly. And that's kind of the way it works.
Well, that is really cool to listen, but how does it really feel right now to at least know that somewhere that you are right now influencing somebody else?
Well, that's definitely an amazing feeling. That's one of the goals you have as a writer or a musician, in a goal that you don't really think about, but when it's happening, you realize that's part of the overall dream, is that you want to develop your original style of some sort to a point where you have a somewhat recognizable or characteristic sound where people can then therefore list you as some kind of an influence, your band or your own individual self or anything. And if I would hear that, and thankfully we do hear that here and there, it's extremely flattering. I take that as an honor that someone would actually go that far as to say that and be touched by whatever we're doing that much that it drives them to want to do it themselves. And it's just a really good feeling, and it feels a bit, accomplished when you do that, because you do put a lot of work into it. There's many hours put in there, and you're just, there's music that's influencing me, of course, so that's intensely important to have musical influence and some kind of heroes that you aspire to be like, or hopefully one day achieve that kind of thing. So if you're becoming that for someone else, that's just an amazing thing to hear. It means you've somewhat reached somewhat of a level that you are striving for. And I also, it's it's part of it's what music is, though. Really, is passing something on, and then that's how the next generations of musicians come around. And I mean, personally, when we're not on tour, when we're not on the road or writing or in the studio, or basically when I'm at home, my other job is that I'm a guitar teacher. So I have students of guitar, and it's a similar thing in that world where that's what you're trying to do as a teacher, is to constantly influence the person who's trying to learn that thing. So I'm doing my best to inspire and influence them to do that, to practice a lot, to search for your own sound, and they're trying to go do the things that I've done to use those tips and that advice to go in the direction to find their own way. So this is just part of the cycle of learning and passing knowledge on to someone else.
Awesome. So let's get on to the section that's going to really excite the fans right now. What does your calendar look like for this year? You guys are now poised to tour with Slayer and Anthrax on the Repentless tour later this year. So
Yes.
apart from that, what does your calendar look like?
Well, that's actually simultaneously the exciting part to talk about, but simultaneously a little bit frustrating for me to talk about right now, because there's nothing I have nothing that I can announce right now, because we're in the process of making these plans still. So we have different options, and we're trying to choose very carefully and wisely what tour we do and when, to be the most effective and reach the most people as possible. So therefore, we're launching our tour for this album, yes, with Slayer and Anthrax in North America. So that's absolutely amazing and very exciting. And that's going to be a really killer tour for us. Probably, I'm thinking that's probably going to be the biggest North American tour we've ever done. And so, with that said, the next thing is going to probably happen after that. That tour ends in November, I believe. And then so we're planning to hopefully go to Europe after that, if we can, before the end of the year. If not at the beginning of next year, somewhere in that realm. And of course, big plans to do all the festivals next summer, 2017, because the 2016 European festivals are practically here already. So we would have had to have had that tour booked in advance, which we didn't, because we're holding off to do the Slayer tour, which we thought might have been happening in the summer, but now it's happening in the fall. So that's what happened. So now it's going to be from that point forward, but you can be sure that you'll be hearing dates from us being announced hopefully sooner than later. But as far as me announcing them right now, I just cannot do so, because there's not confirmed dates that I can say about right at this moment, except for the Slayer Anthrax tour.
I have another interesting section that I could hope that you might keep it to a smaller extent. A whole lot of bands recently following up the primaries in the presidential elections in the US have come out with their own sense of political direction, endorsing the favorite candidates. So has that angel like sort of taken a path like this? Because I also couldn't help but notice the Bernie Sanders T-shirt in Hatred United.
Right. So that's cool that Ted wore that.
Yeah.
So that subject gets a little bit delicate, because the thing is, so of course we individually, the guys in the band, have our views, and whatever side that we, whatever choices that we feel personally, and among ourselves in private, yeah, we will discuss these things. And yes, our album is called The Evil Divide, and it is pointing out and absolutely touching these situations, including inspiration of the elections happening here in the United States, and the circus show that is happening around it, and the madness of the things going on, and between Trump and Sanders, and people protesting at the campaign, basically all these details and these situations going on. Yeah, we are pointing it out, and we are not happy about it, and it's very much expressed in the lyrics and the concept of this album. Other than that, we aren't really, we don't consider ourselves like a political band and message. So really in our albums and in our lyrics, we don't really normally go there. Other bands do, and that's cool, and I respect that, and I even like a lot of these bands, and I even agree with what they're saying. But there's just a line we draw between our creative expression and our art and what message particularly our band is sending collectively as a band. And so with that said, we just keep our religious and political conversations and opinions to our own personal conversations, and don't really try to push one side or the other through our band or our music. So I'll kind of just leave it vague as that. Of course, you know, of course, we're level-headed, and we are not, none of us are, okay, so at the same time, I'm just going to leave it at that. So we're not going to claim, Ted clearly is supporting Bernie Sanders. He's wearing that shirt, and, you know, I think that's really cool, personally, myself, but I'm not going to speak for all of the guys in the band and us collectively as one message like that. So everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I'll just leave it like that.
It was a great pleasure talking to you, Rob. Hope you have a great day, and all the best for your endeavors, for the band's endeavors.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the very nice interview, and you have a very nice rest of the day or night or whatever time it is over there.